Happy Halloween, Gothamites. Welcome back to Batman Arkham Knight. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, a man who has been LPing Virtue's Last Reward for 3 years. Please introduce yourself.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Hi, I'm Fedule.
I've been following that thread and I've been pretty, I've been on the ropes about whether or not I should pick it up, and I'm pretty sure I should because apparently it's a very good game, and now the sequel's out.
I'm never going to hear the end of this, am I?
No, it's fine.
It's cool, I deserve it. But we're not here to talk about Virtue's Last Reward.
It's true, we're here to talk about bat things. So, as is customary with all the guests I've had so far, what is your experience with the Arkham series?
Right, specifically the Arkham series.
I do want to point out that poster real quick,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
A few videos back we've covered there are a lot of cameos in this game. And that one was for Ted the Wildcat Grant, which is actually a reference to Wildcat the superhero. Ted Grant is his best-known incarnation.
Fascinating.
I just wanted to point that out real quick. So yes, what's your Arkham experience?
Specifically the Arkham stuff. I have played Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight to completion. I have never owned, let alone played, Arkham Origins.
Any particular reason for that, or...?
The reception when it came out was kind of and I had other video game stuff going on at the time, and I came to understand that it was kind of just...
So, here's something weird I noticed. Why is Deacon Blackfire still in his little cage over here?
That is an excellent question.
I just noticed, here's Deacon Blackfire in his little cage with...
Is condition calm? Can you
no,
knock
you
him
can't,
out again?
You can't interact with him, he's just there. He's got Jack Ryder on the table. He's just hanging out.
Video games, ladies and gentlemen.
It reminds me of playing Arkham Origins. Every time I've played through Arkham Origins, I encounter a new bug, and it's incredible.
Like I think in the 24 hours right before this recording, there was a speedrun of Sonic 06 for Summer Games.
Oh my goodness,
done quick,
I was
they
watching
discovered
that.
an entirely new softlock live on stream.
Yeah, it was. So he was changing the
games.
cinematic camera in the middle of bouncing between pillars, and Sonic's just sitting there spinning in midair, and it's fantastic. You know, it's one of those things. I'm surprised that Sonic 06 doesn't have enough of, like, the game's obviously so buggy and crappy to start with. I'm surprised that the game isn't finishable in about 10 minutes, and 9 minutes of that is just spending on loading screens.
It figures it would be broken in every way except one that helps people.
And I remember listening to the guy talk about he spent hours grinding that one section on it. It's like less than a second, and you just choose whether you love Elise or you love Amy, but he spent hours grinding that out to get the optimal path. I'm like, these people have a dedication level that I'm never going to meet.
Yeah, I have got to respect the hell out of, quote, professional, unquote, speedrunners,
Oh yeah,
even though
absolutely.
I will never, ever take any actual interest in doing it myself, because, dear God...
It takes a certain level of psychosis, which, you know, being we do LPs, we have a certain level, but not that level. Not the level to go through the same section over and over again.
So yeah, I was saying, the Arkham games I have played totally. I have platinumed Arkham Knight, and I have basically finished...
We got a lot of anger to vent, a lot of frustration. One way or another, you're gonna help us.
Because I know I got the...
I was just shutting up for these guys.
Oh yeah,
So,
whatever. But go on.
Yeah, I have finished Arkham's Asylum and City, although I haven't platinumed them for a reason that I'm sure we'll get to later. Other than that, though, I have zero experience with Batman other than the Christopher Nolan films.
Okay, so you never even saw the you didn't see the Tim Burton movies.
No, and
Really?
even the Nolanverse stuff was kind of accidental. Like I never intended to like Batman Begins. It just happened that there was a trip to the London IMAX where we were going to see some film, and then instead of seeing that film, we saw Batman Begins. And
Which, that's fine.
frankly,
That's how it works
I thought it was pretty awesome.
See, I think I saw Batman Begins. I think I've only seen it maybe twice. But I saw The Dark Knight when it came out in theaters, and I was pretty ecstatic at The Dark Knight. And then, a couple years later, I didn't see The Dark Knight Rises in theaters, but I caught it on DVD quite a while later. And I've only watched that once. I probably need to watch it again. But, I was on a, we'll call it a business trip a few years back, and they had a server that had a bunch of movies on it, so I caught up on all the Tim Burton movies and the Joel Schumacher movies, and man, the first two movies are decent. The second movie gets a little toy schmaltzy, but then the third and fourth movies are just straight up bonkers. But it's okay.
Sounds like a riot. So after this point, I was like, okay, so now I've seen Batman Begins. Now I'm a Batman fan, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I was like, oh, I heard that it was like a reboot, because this was the early to mid 2000s when the reboot was still kind of a new idea.
Oh yes, so here's a different weird thing that happened to me. Have you noticed that the textures haven't really loaded in here?
You know, now you bring it up.
And I'm also having a problem where I can't really latch on to anything. Like, I'm able to latch onto this, but as I go further in, like, the textures keep having issues, and I keep not being able to latch onto things.
We're just having all the technical luck in this video.
It was amazing when it happened, let me tell you. So I'm looking around, trying to latch on the clock tower, but it's not happening. So I'm trying to figure out, well, hold on, what's going on? Well, maybe if I land, it will let me latch onto something.
That sounds portentous.
Just you wait. Because here I'm trying to latch on, I'm like, nope, nothing's happening. So, okay, well, let's drop down and figure out what's going on. Because here I'm trying to latch on, nothing's happening, and, oh, hello.
Oh, through the map. A classic.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. It's the first time it's happened to me.
Yep. Incredible.
But that was the last firefighter we have that's being particularly beaten up on by Two-Face's goons. So now we have to go save the fire chief.
I remember this bit. I like this bit.
It's not bad. The ending was a little strange for me, but you know, it is what it is.
Oh well. So anyway, there I am in mid to late 2000s. Thinking, yeah, so this is like a reboot of Batman, and I've gotten in on the ground floor. And then about a year later, I played Arkham Asylum, and I'm like, hang on, this is nothing like Batman Begins. What's going on?
It's very different, yeah.
Fortunately, I had a college roommate at the time who knows basically everything ever about comics.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to impress upon me the lunacy of the Batman quantum multiverse.
That's a good way to think of DC, yeah. A lunatic quantum multiverse, yes. Well, that's really DC Comics in a nutshell. It's a bit worse than Marvel, because Marvel sprung from the minds of probably the same four people, more or less. DC Comics have always been a amalgamation of a couple different companies that all just got snapped up by DC Comics. So they've always been a lot messier in terms of their multiverses. Like every time you see something like Marvel, usually if there's a different variation of it, Marvel just makes a different universe for it. Like Spider-Man comics are their own universe. And I'm talking about the newspaper comics.
Yeah. I said one of the things that I learned very quickly is not to get hung up on the technicalities of comic book universes.
Oh yes, if you get hung up on the technicalities, you're gonna have a bad time.
That way, madness lies. So it happened that I got Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, and they were pretty awesome. And you know, I had a sort of marginal interest in other Bat happenings at the time.
Yeah, other Bat media.
Between Arkham City and Arkham Knight, I experienced exactly 2 other Batman works of any description ever. Of which one was the comic, graphic novel, whatever, Batman Earth 1.
Okay.
And the other, not 30 days before the release date of Arkham Knight, was Under the Red Hood.
The animated movie?
Yes.
Okay, that's not a bad movie, honestly.
So yeah, you know, it was pretty good, but it was kind of hilarious in retrospect because I went directly from Under the Red Hood to Arkham Knight, and
yeah, I can see that.
even to me, even to somebody with absolutely no real Bat experience to speak of, there were alarm bells very early on.
It was kind of obvious who the Arkham Knight was going to be.
Yeah. I imagine it was as obvious to me as it was to most of the rest of people, just probably a lot funnier to me than it was to them.
And see, that's part of the thing, is, you know, if you come into the Arkham games not knowing anything about Jason Todd or anything about Red Hood, the entire thing seems a lot more plausible. But if you have any Batman experience at all, knowing that they were going to talk about, you know, Jason Todd isn't going to be a character, we're going to have a brand new character, but at the same time, the Red Hood story pack was announced as, I think it was a GameStop exclusive. You have questions.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I've heard some, you know, somewhat... I think it's a bit insulting to them to call them conspiracy theories, but, you know, let's go with allegations, suggestions. There you go. Suggestions in the thread, and I think possibly in some of the videos, that the inclusion of Jason Todd might have happened at the request of people other than Rocksteady. That it might have been
as
a
far
case
as like
of,
fans or executive
like
overreach.
executive meddling.
I could see that argument. I don't necessarily buy into it, but I could see it.
I mean, it would account for things like how there has been absolutely zero mention of Jason Todd up to this point in the series, despite the fact that we have Tim Drake as the current Robin and Nightwing as Nightwing.
Well, you know, it's one of those things too. You know, a lot of people complained about Nightwing not dating Barbara Gordon because that's what it is in the comics.
Yeah, and you know they had the Batgirl DLC pack, which kind of implies that, you know, Nightwing left and Jason Todd came and left and Tim Drake happened in the really appallingly short space of time. It's the whole thing was just, it's exactly the kind of thing that happens when you have executive meddling, and that's the closest thing I have to ironclad proof of any of this nonsense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I do have to cut in here. In case you're curious about the outcome of all this fire chief stuff, here you go.
Even if that meant aiding and abetting a known arsonist.
Shock.
It was you who gave Firefly the access codes and addresses of abandoned buildings.
What a
I
twist.
made sure they were empty. No one was hurt.
You put your men in danger.
The city was shutting us down. I couldn't let them do it. I couldn't.
And while there was an arsonist at large in Gotham, your men would keep their jobs.
They've got families. They gave their lives to this city. I made a promise to them.
A man of honor keeps his word.
You understand that, right?
Etc., etc.
The police will want to question you at GCPD.
So, the weird thing is, when I did this quest again, I thought it turned out differently. This is the first time I finished this quest since I played this game at launch. I thought this is one of those ones that gave you an option.
Batman's car.
I don't think so.
My little girl.
And now that I'm playing through it again, I remember it because it doesn't give you an option at all, but kind of like you had Azrael, you had the option to take him, you had the option to attack Batman or to leave him alone. I believe there's two of those in the game, and the number of most wanted that you have locked up in high security will actually change. By default, it's at 11.
That part is true.
Yeah,
like
by default it's 11, but I think there are choices you can make throughout the game, including the Azrael one, that bring it up to 13, possibly.
I don't know about 13. Definitely 12.
Definitely 12, but I thought it was 13.
You can't really count. I don't know if you're counting Ra's al Ghul as the other one.
No, I'm not, because I remember seeing it before the Season of Infamy stuff happened, but I thought it was 13.
I don't believe it's 13. Well,
it might not be 13.
Yeah.
I may be totally confused.
Anyway,
it's happened before.
You've got to kind of hand it to this fire chief. That, in every respect, other than, you know, collaborating with Firefly, seems to have taken a lot of quite sensible precautions.
Yeah, no, he's done an excellent job looking out for his people. I mean, he's kept them employed. especially, you know, when the city is cutting back on its essential services like firefighting. He's made it obvious that, you know, despite our advanced civilization, fire is still a threat. But at the same time, look at who's in this cell. Does the fire chief really belong there?
Nah.
That's the biggest thing I sit here and wonder about this is, and you've got Simon Stagg in there too. You know, these two are obviously, they obviously have some questionable things that they have done, but do they really belong in the same cell as Professor Pig?
Yeah, I don't think he even has any nice interactions with any of the other rogues gallery.
You would think that Firefly would antagonize him here and there, but I don't hear anything. But
yeah. Also, while we're here, let's hear it for Aaron Cash heroically losing a fax.
Heroic Cash is my hero.
I've consistently liked Aaron Cash in the Arkham games. He's just.
You know, that's the thing is,
archetype done completely right.
He is, and I mean, even where he appears in the comics, you know, because he started out in the comics in Arkham Asylum, Living Hell, I think, was the miniseries that he first appeared in. I mean, Aaron Cash, I mean, he's portrayed as a badass, more or less. Like, he doesn't have time for this crap. Nobody has time for this crap. Yeah. You have to be the baddest guy on the block in order to deal with all these insane psychos. And even after he gets his hand bitten off by Killer Croc, he's still going to come in and crack down when he has to.
You can't fault Aaron Cash.
You really can't. I mean, he's getting things done, and it's fantastic. So I really like Aaron Cash. He's somebody I'm really glad came to a greater life in the Arkhamverse than he did in the comics.
The great upside to having a lunatic quantum multiverse like Batman's is that you can have all these other weird little works that take all these weird little takes on other characters that may or may not have gotten any exposure before. So
yeah, that's why I'm kind of sad they didn't have, you know, if we're making our dream Arkham game, they didn't have anything involving people like Renee Montoya. Now they have a cameo to her inside the GCPD. They have a list of off-duty officers. One of them is, it's not. The name isn't. I think the name is John Jones, which is an alias for the Martian Manhunter. But they also have Renee Montoya, who is a GCPD detective, but she's also the current Question, which is a different DC, I hesitate to say superhero, but he's a heroic personality.
We just saw there. You seem to have jumped off of it, but whatever. One of those Riddler trophy cages with the coordinates.
Yep, I'll get back to it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to grab this one first.
Yeah. Here's a basic sort of game mechanic sanity question. Why is this point here, where the trophy is, the location of the question mark that gets added to your map, and not that point that you're going to, where you have to come back to start the race? Why?
So, when I first saw those coordinates next to the question mark trophy, I had no idea what it meant. I didn't have a single clue.
It took me a while as well. Like, I didn't even notice that the map screen had coordinates.
Exactly. Like, I think I noticed the coordinates, but it just didn't click for me. So, here's a question then. How would you improve that? Would you make it something like...
I would do the thing that I said. Is that let's not have the cage with the coordinates next to it, because that's just a weird extra step. Let's just...
So you would just start the trophy at the...
Yeah.
Or you would start the map location at the race start location...
Yeah,
and then you would just give you the mark on the map.
Yeah, the waypoint brings you to the trophy. I mean, that's basically what they do with the weird forensic scanner trail things, is that the mark that appears on your map leads you to the start point, and then the trail leads you to the trophy.
Now, I do think there's a reason for that, for the reason I'm pointing to the trophy first, is because some of these are, like, underground. So if you don't know where it is to start with, getting to it can be a little tricky. You know, a lot of these are up on top of buildings, but I know there's one on the side of a shipping container, and I know there's obviously one that's under an overhang, or on top of an overhang, I should say.
Accessible, so you can always follow the nice road arrows.
Right, but let's be honest, the road arrows are not the best way to get to these. With very few exceptions.
They help. I have found that the whole reason that I like having them instead of just having the waypoint is that on these multi-level vertical places, they do actually help.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. Anyway. So yeah, I guess now we've segued into game mechanics, I'm going to have to start delivering opinions on this game, aren't I?
So yes, you have a particular hot take on the Arkham games that I haven't heard before.
I do.
So let's dive into this.
Okay. Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Not yet, but I've got a second beer here. I should get there.
Well, tough shit, because here it comes. Challenge rooms suck. They are bad. The idea of them is bad, and I don't like them. Fight me.
Okay, I'll just start with the obvious counterpoint of... I've gotten a couple comments in the thread of people being, maybe in awe is the wrong word, but they're somewhat impressed by my combat ability in these games. I mean, oftentimes you'll find me in a couple videos, I get punched in the face repeatedly, and I feel bad about it. But then you'll have some of these combat rooms, and again, it's the challenge maps, or I'll have other maps which are just normal combat, like during the main game, where I'm doing incredibly. And I mean, the Arkham games really give you a certain rhythm that you can work with. If you lose your rhythm, yeah, you'll get punched in the face repeatedly.
You know, it's funny that you should mention that, because that ties in with astonishing precision to the reason why I don't like the challenge rooms.
Okay, go on. I'll let you finish yours first.
I'm going to have to go on a little bit of a tangent about ranking systems.
Okay.
So, we've got this thing where a game tells you, to some kind of, quote, objective, or perhaps quantitative extent, unquote, how well you're doing at playing it.
Sure.
And I found that they come in two varieties. The kind where it tells you how far you are from being perfect, and the superfluous kind.
Okay.
Like, I swear to God this comes up all the time, so yes, this is the obligatory Fedule Platinum Games tangent.
Yes, Platinum games tend to punish you for playing poorly.
Yeah, those games, the ranking system is, were you perfect, YN?
Mm-hmm.
With a couple of little weird oddities, like Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
Mm-hmm. Now, I should mention that I've been playing Odin Sphere recently, where unlike most Platinum games where they punish you for using items, Odin Sphere rewards you for using items, and it's fantastic.
That's nice.
But
so yeah, so Revengeance is a little bit weird, but ultimately you're still chasing the best rank.
Mm-hmm.
But the point of the ranking system isn't so much like delivering any kind of judgment. It's really more for your information. So
in that case, the ranking system is superfluous.
Well, it tells you in what respect that you are lacking. It gives you it gives you something helpful. I mean,
but it doesn't necessarily reward you for your performance.
Not necessarily. I mean, the fact that it literally does is neither here nor there. But yeah, Platinum games, man. Anyway, Batman.
Found him.
This game does not have a ranking system for fights. I mean, it kind of has the EXP payout, which is a little bit. It's kind of ranking E, but, a big thing doesn't come up that says, yeah, you got an A+, good punching.
Okay.
And it doesn't have one, because it doesn't need one. Because you know when you're playing this game well. You can feel it.
Yeah, you really can. You get in the rhythm.
When we're watching the videos, we can see it. You specifically use the word "or" describing somebody's reactions to this game being played well. Like, there is no question about it. Like if you went and you completely aced a fight that was full of like riot shield guys and guys with guns and guys with stun sticks and brutes.
Mm-hmm. It's recognizable when you do well.
Yeah, if you did that and a big pop-up came that says like, yeah, you got an S, you'd be like, well, no shit, I got an S.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need one. So when you do well or badly in this game, it's visceral feedback.
Okay, so you don't really need a ranking system because you know when you have played a map well.
Yeah.
Okay,
this
I understand
is the really
that.
important part. When you mess up, it's equally apparent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's apparent in a game mechanic sense. It's not apparent in like, oh, you lost a point. You take a couple hits, you have a certain total capacity for hit taking.
Right. Before you have a critical existence failure.
Yeah. And here's the even more important point: is that having a single screw up in a fight does not completely ruin your flow, even if it does completely ruin your combo.
Right.
Which brings us to challenge rooms, which differ from the main game that I like, that I think is incredible, that I think deserves even more accolades than it actually has, in the sense that that's not true. Ruining your combo does ruin what the game thinks is how well you're playing it, because the challenge rooms do judge you. The challenge rooms do make you earn points, and earning points does make you play by slightly weird rules where you're always conscious about the fact that you're trying to earn points, more conscious than you are of just trying to play the game really well.
Well, sure. I'll let you finish. I have rebuttals. I may not remember most of them, but go on.
Yeah. On a quite related note, the quickest way, the absolute fastest way to get a grip on what problems a game has is to play it on the hardest difficulty.
Right, which I'm currently doing.
Yeah, or with the most stringent requirements, because you will feel your mistakes, and more importantly, if something happens that's not your fault, you will get really mad about it.
Yeah, been there, done that.
So yeah, so here we have these challenge rooms that say, like, get however many tens of thousands of points, that say, right, you must do this room with these ludicrous mix of enemies, with a perfect combo, with this much variety, and never taking a hit, never breaking a combo, etc., etc. And all that stuff just gets in the way. Just let me play the game. But this gets even more ironic, because are you ready for another piping hot take?
Oh snap! I'm not, but go on.
Arkham Knight's challenge scenarios, the AR things, are really good and is the right way to do this.
Ooh.
It puts you in a little arena, and you know, if you are going to make me play perfectly, at least have the grace to just infinitely spawn enemies and let me just build up an infinite combo until I mess up, at which point you restart the bloody map, because you know that's what you do in challenge rooms. Is you mess up, oh no, you can't get the most points, and you restart.
Okay.
I like this way of doing it. It frankly feels more honest, more open. Instead of, can you reach this stupid arbitrary threshold with this stupid arbitrary rules, it's the, you know, as a guy I like characterized it, it's the game mechanics set on a platter, jiggling for eternity.
Okay.
You play just as long as you can, and just by virtue of continuing to play long enough, you will eventually reach the maximum point threshold. And
sure.
If you happen to do it with big variety and all that good stuff, then you feel that much better. But the threshold isn't arbitrary. It works. It feels good. I like it. I wish all of the maps were like that.
Okay. Yeah, I won't lie to you. Those are some hot takes. But let me see how I can fight you. So, going back to the whole Platinum Games thing, so one thing that Arkham Origins did do is after every combat encounter, or after every Predator encounter, they would give you a ranking from C to S, based on how well you did in that encounter, and depending on what rank you got, at a minimum, if you got a C rank, you would still get a 25% experience bonus from that particular whatever you just did.
Yeah.
And the S rank would be a plus 100% bonus.
It figures that the one bloody Batman Arkham game that I haven't actually played is the one that actually does give you a ranking system.
And now, I can't really argue with that as far as the combat stuff goes, because, again, when you're doing the combat, you know when you're doing poorly. You know if you're getting punched in the head, you know if you don't really have a habit for employing more gadgets. It's obvious, you can feel it. But where it really comes in handy is stuff like the Predator sections, because I remember one of the complaints I got in the thread for Arkham Knight is people didn't feel like I was screwing with the goons enough. So they just wanted me to literally be the bat dick of their dreams and start just, you know, like throwing batarangs, screwing around with people, that sort of thing.
Ah, yes. So it gives you higher ranks for doing inventive.
It gives you higher ranks
stuff.
for not being seen, not taking damage, but mostly for varying up your takedowns. And it would do the same thing in combat for varying your combos and also for varying your gadget usage, because especially after Arkham City happened, the quickfire gadgets became so much more doable. It's a big thing of combat now. And that's...
I will grant that I do feel a little bit differently about the combat challenges than the Predator challenges. I'm honestly not sure about the Predator challenges. Like, needless to say, those aren't as open to, you know, endless play,
right,
as the combat is. Although, you know, this game specifically has almost done it with stuff like the Catwoman Two-Face fight in Arkham City.
Mm-hmm.
The goons that just keep spawning and you keep reacting to them.
So they have a map like that in Arkham Knight. It's a DLC map where you start at one of the earlier Predator maps where you're just swinging around this... I think it's before you met the Riddler for the first time in the story. That area where you're on top of the subway terminal, and you're just taking down people for as long as you want. As long as you take people down, you get more time added to the timer. But the thing for me is, I've always enjoyed the combat maps a lot more than I've enjoyed the Predator maps, mostly because the Predator maps require, like you said, you to play in a certain way.
It's weird. Like, the Predator maps just, like, they outwardly seem like a lot more engaging. They're certainly more characteristic. They're definitely a defining point.
They're absolutely more characteristic, because I remember when I was doing the Arkham City LP, I remember one of the specific challenges I got was, I want to see you do Top of the World Extremist Catwoman, because that was one of the bigger challenges in the game. But
so yeah, I couldn't imagine this game without Predator sections. And yet, it's the combat, it's just the punching people in the face that just feels the most viscerally satisfying.
Right, and that's part of the reason that I appreciate the combat challenge maps, is they're what give you an opportunity to practice your ability to punch people in the face.
Yeah.
Now, and you can... I really don't think that's a hot take. I really wouldn't be as good at the combat in this game if I didn't spend so much time on the Arkham on the Arkham City on the Arkham City challenge maps, because the combat
challenge maps were what we had. So you know, it's not like you can't practice on them.
Right.
It's just a little bit annoying to try and meet their thresholds. But yeah, the practicing.
You know, that's part of what I find fun about it, is obviously they've set these thresholds for a reason. When you have when I was doing the Arkham City LP, I had the Joker's Carnival map. Is you have to get 1,000,000 points to get the 3 stars. That's a pretty high bar to clear, especially when you got a time limit for it.
Yeah, and when you are basically punished for whiffing a punch, and this is the thing. The targeting in this game is not perfect. It's quite good. It's really good.
Yeah. So the targeting in Arkham Knight isn't perfect. The targeting in Arkham Origins is lousy.
So yeah, that's the thing. Is that it's really good. It works like 99.9% of the time. But when you are being held to perfection, when you are on the highest difficulty, when you have the most stringent standards, it only takes one weird, tiny little thing that's not your fault to send you into rage.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I really think Arkham City was the pinnacle of the Arkham series, is the targeting was really on point for everything. Like, I very rarely had an issue where I punched somebody I didn't mean to punch in Arkham City. In Arkham Origins, it happened all the time. In this game, it happens some of the time, which... it's still incredibly frustrating when it happens.
So yeah, ranking in Predator maps. Like, I can kind of see it, although I don't think I can see it in the way in which this game seems to see it. Which is, each map has these specific things that you have to do, and it's like, why these things on this map? What if I think these things are stupid?
Well, too bad. That's really what it comes down to.
It's like, the one that sticks out for me is there's a metro terminal.
Is that in Arkham City or in this game?
Arkham Knight.
On Arkham Knight, okay.
Yeah, it's a Predator challenge. It's one of the earliest AR challenges that you can get.
I think we're talking about the same one. Yeah, so it's...
I think it's called End of the Line?
Yes, I have that up in the thread. That's also the one that they have that has you do the endless stuff on it. So it's the same map, but go on.
I don't think it was endless. It was definitely like take out these 6
So
guys.
the basic version
the
is take out the guys. The basic version is take out the guys, and one of the challenges is to take out the minigunner first. Another challenge is take out a guy.
I don't think we are talking about the same map, because the one I remember did not have a minigunner. It had a medic. In fact, I think it had 2 medics.
No, you're right. Yep, I'm thinking of a different map. It had 2 medics, and one of the challenges is to take out a medic last, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Now let's just stop this discussion in its tracks and hone in on that point. Take out the medic last. Take out the medic last. The medic last. Take out the medic last. Why?
You know, especially after you've been conditioned through playing the game, the medics will revive people. You should always take them out first.
Why?
Or you should sabotage them.
Ask anyone to take out the medic last.
Well, I mean, to be semantic about it, it's right there in the name. It's a challenge map.
Yeah. It also gets better, just that it requires you to use a fear takedown in that map.
Right.
Which, you know, it's a big map and there's not a lot of people.
Actually, I think that one requires you to do 2 fear takedowns in the same map.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, the point that I was trying to make was even better than the point that I thought I was making. But yeah, it's just like, okay, fair. You can have these little challenges that are basically like little mini achievements that encourage you to explore your options, and that's great, okay? But when you're gonna force them on people for the sake of the "you played the game well" badge, rather than the "oh, you played it wrong, you bad gamer," the objective should not be stupid.
And see, that's something else I feel like I have to point out about the Arkham Origins challenge maps is when you finished a challenge map in Arkham Origins, you actually got an experience bonus.
Oh, by the way, pause this and appreciate this little puzzle.
Yes, you have to spell out BAT. I felt like I needed to point that out, but you have to stop it on the particular stages that have letters on it. He's written over stage A, B, and C with stages B, A, and T. And you just have to spell out BAT because it's the Riddler. Why wouldn't you?
It's exactly the kind of thing that he would do.
It's extremely the kind of thing that he would do because Eddie's got issues this game.
So yeah, anyway, I am fully in favour of having a game in which, you know, generally across the scope of the whole game encourages you to do these little things like, you know, try doing, you know, any encounter, without doing this, or without relying on this, or with doing this one weird trick that medics hate, or whatever.
Which is why I hate to bring up Arkham Origins yet again, but you didn't play it.
I haven't played it, but I sure as hell have heard people complaining about
the Dark Knight system. Yes. So, as you go through the game, it is possible to do the Dark Knight system within a single playthrough, which I did in the LP. But the problem is, you have to be playing in a specific way. And if you are not playing in a specific way, you miss out. You don't have your chance. It's gone.
Like, what I never actually confirmed is how hilariously can you screw yourself out of certain important things. Like, is it possible, for example, to permanently lose access to, oh, I don't know, the special combo Disarm and Destroy?
No. So, the way the Dark Knight system is set up, none of the, I guess what you would call our important upgrades are tied to it. Stuff like the special combo Disarm and Destroy is tied to side missions.
Okay.
The Dark Knight system, I believe, only gives you experience rewards.
Right. It's not a total wash, then.
No. It's just there for stuff like, if you do enough of these things, and it's been a year since I did those games, so excuse me if my memory's going, but I don't believe the Dark Knight system had any upgrades tied to it. Now, the problem I did have with Arkham Origins is the way they did the upgrades. It was total garbage.
Again, with the holding on things and commenting on things, I cannot remember how I got that one trophy with the hitting the question mark that turns off when you look at it. But I certainly did not stand in front of the mirror and throw a batarang backwards.
Now, I know you don't have to stand in front of the mirror, but I know that you can't be looking at the question mark with the camera. That's really what the issue was.
I did something weird with the remote control battery. Damn if I can remember what.
Maybe do a U-turn at the last minute. Who knows? So this is a. I just feel I need to explain this. This is a twist on the classic. What are you saying? The name of the color or the color that you see?
We never are gonna get tired of that, are we?
We really aren't, because it really is always a brain puzzler. It's always a classic. The only problem is the controls aren't great. So this first set I got no problem. I didn't have to write down anything. I just hit them as I see them.
But of course, these things always escalate.
Of course they do, because there's three sections to this.
How did you know?
And his explanation for it is great.
Yeah.
So if you get it on the first time, this is what he says. He has different dialogue for if you get it on the if you screw up the first time, saying what you see, not what you read, idiot. So no matter what you do, he'll call you a dumbass. But at this point, I realized what it was, and I get over my computer and I started writing down. Okay, well I'm looking for this color, this color, this color, this color. But the problem is, I didn't actually hit the yellow there. The batarang just went towards the yellow and bounced off the screen. And I actually screwed this one up a few times before I realized, okay, I have to make sure it actually hits the color that I'm looking at, because I knew it threw it at the yellow. That was the first color we saw, but here we go. So, for your hot takes on challenge maps, I appreciate, and this is me sitting here looking at this. Is that what I wrote down? Yes, it is. Okay. But I appreciate, and I accidentally hit green twice, shame on me. I appreciate the challenge maps because they gave me an opportunity to not only, perfect the combat, but honestly to be graded on the combat superfluously. Because if you grade me on it, then I know if I'm doing well by the game standards or if I'm screwing something up.
That's the thing. I mean, I contest that you don't need to be graded. You don't need any information to be told anything to know when you're playing this game correctly. Even if you just poke at it until you do it, it will happen. You will hit the flow, and you will be like,
"No, yeah,
wow,
you're absolutely right.
I can see the matrix."
You don't necessarily need that extra grading system to have that, but the truth is, these games, as you're going through the story, don't necessarily offer you that opportunity to go through. This is a complicated combat section. I should go through this again and again until I'm good at it.
I like that you can just cruise around the streets and punch random thugs, but it doesn't really give you much of an opportunity to practice against the more armored, interesting, dangerous guys.
Right. You don't have that on the streets. You don't find shield thugs. You don't find stun batons. You don't find brutes.
Yeah. So I do appreciate that they are a way to just do some encounters in a way that doesn't tie into the game in any way. So they've got that function. They're good at that function.
That's especially because one of the biggest complaints I have about the post game in Arkham Knight is all the areas you go through are completely empty.
Yeah.
And that's even something that And here's the thing: if it was the other way around, I would probably complain about it because I did in Arkham City. When I had to go through the same areas and there were enemies back in it again in Arkham City, I complained about it. But at the same time, these areas that
respawning, there's too many guys.
At the same time, these areas that had so much character the first time you went through them...
There's not enough guys. Why aren't they respawning?
Exactly. Now the areas just feel dead and empty, except for my one true nemesis, the Riddler.
Here's your reward.
Yeah.
I can totally appreciate that the challenge rooms serve purposes other than challenges, which it's cool that you can just load up some guys and punch them until you're happy or not. I do think it would have been better if you'd have had a custom encounter training rooms. Like, hey, I want to train with riot shield guys or ninjas, or riot shield guys and ninjas,
right?
Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I should clarify my hot take and say that I object to how they work as challenges to be overcome. Even while I readily acknowledge that they serve other functions quite well.
So mostly what you're complaining about is stuff like the Predator rooms, where they give you very specific takedowns you have to do.
Yeah. It's like it's always nice to vary things up, but you know, doesn't by that same token, isn't it also a bit stupid that in order to get the best rank in any given room, you always have to do these one particular set of things?
This one weird trick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that's
So,
the other
like-
reason that I prefer the combat rooms over the Predator rooms, is Predator rooms require you to think really hard.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I like the combat rooms, and I really do like the combat rooms in all the games, and all the DLC
speaking
maps. I love
Speaking
them.
of thinking, that was a good puzzle.
That is a
like-
good puzzle.
That was a puzzle that's characteristic to this game, that uses mechanics that you already know about in a context that gives them new and astonishing functionality and significance.
So it will mostly come up in the next video, but pretty much all of the Riddler challenges on Miyagani Island are actually really creative. And they require you
that's
to
a good
actually...
thing.
It is a good thing. I
a
mean,
very
here
good
you are dealing with the Riddler, you know, after a certain point, you think dealing with the same riddles over and over again. This is something we discussed
It's not
out of
very
video.
intellectually clever, isn't it?
Yeah, this is something we discussed out of video, is how even though Arkham City had more riddles, it didn't feel as tedious.
Yeah. And you know, that's kind of astonishing on the face of it. I mean, this game is what, 242?
This game
Riddles?
is 243.
Oh, pardon me. I have failed. I will resign in shame.
That's fine,
And
I just won't
Arkham
have you on
City.
for another video.
And Arkham City had like 440 if you have Catwoman.
440 including Catwoman, yep.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it's because of the scope of the game or what the issue is, but even though this game has half as many riddles, they're all so much more spread out.
Yeah. It feels like you're constantly going around crossing things off a list. I guess
and I'm
it's
not-
kind of its own virtue in City that you can't just wander down a street without crossing off like 5 riddles.
Yeah, and it really is, and both the games have a very easy way of marking them for later, but I think what it is this game is just larger. It's about 5 times larger than Arkham City.
Creative
So-
puzzle alert.
Exactly, you have to hit it on the way up. And so I feel like when you have half as many riddles, you have to spend more time thinking about how can we make this one unique.
And if the outcome of that is more stuff like this, then well, I'm all for that.
The problem is that you still have this very large area, so it feels like half the riddles are really thought through, like how can we make this one interesting, whereas in Arkham City, it probably felt less packed because you had a lot of riddles that were the same, like, oh, do you have the Disruptor upgrade to destroy mines? Then you've solved about 5 riddles just by that.
Yeah.
Whereas in here, I think there's only one, and this is the only one, I think, that requires you to use the Disruptor to blow up mines.
I don't think there actually is a right answer to this kind of dilemma.
No, there's not. I mean, obviously I didn't pick the right answer there, but I got there.
Yeah, I see what you did there. You were talking about the literal puzzle in the game.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So yeah, this is all well and good, but you know, you just know that eventually Warner Brothers games is going to go to Rocksteady and think, hey, cool, you did this, it was really good. Now I'll do it again with more and better.
Well, that's pretty much the curse of Arkham Origins. Is they
Yeah.
wanted to do more. They had a city about twice the size of Arkham City. The problem was that it came after Arkham City to start with, which Arkham City was really good. I just feel the need to reiterate that Arkham City was really good.
The open world creep in Batman generally. I mean, one of the things I really liked about Arkham Asylum is that it was basically a Metroidvania.
Yes, it's all very, very self-contained.
Yeah, and all the areas are very precisely and carefully gated by stuff. And you know, it's got the Metroidvania thing where you can go around a thing. You know, oh, how do I get that thing? And then you know, you get an upgrade, and the light bulb goes off in your head, and you go back to the place. I mean, it wasn't quite as free to explore as certain kinds of those games were, but you know, the spirit was there.
You know, bizarrely enough, the game that I would say is most like a Metroidvania, which is, let me see, I'm going to say the full title, Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate, which is the mobile game, is garbage.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't that game like bad and stuff?
That game is hot shit.
So yeah, then
The only
started.
way I will play through that is if they make a if they make a Suicide Squad game that ties into it. There you go. I've made my talks. There we are.
I will remember and ban you personally. So yeah, then the open world creep thing started, and you know that was all well and good. I mean, Arkham City was not like Arkham Asylum; it was a different thing, and yeah, it's good that you can make a sequel and have it be different. That's good.
You know, and in some way, Arkham City had a lot of little bits of Lost along the way, and you know, as I mentioned last episode that you haven't seen yet, I went through the entire story of starting with Arkham Origins, going through Arkham Asylum, and Arkham City. The plot of these games is an absolute joke.
Oh yeah,
it's a mess. Like comic books are dumb. That's pretty much Batman Arkham in a nutshell. Comic books are dumb.
Yeah. So yeah, all this weird stuff started happening, and open world became a thing, and Arkham City was like, it kind of had the trappings of open world, but it was small and compact and focused, and it kind of worked. And then Arkham Origins needed to be bigger, and Arkham Knight, well, by that point that ship had sailed, and I've got to say this for Rocksteady, they ran with it. Like, Arkham Knight works as a bigger, badder, better game in a way that Arkham Origins did not. And you know, I'm happily going to rip on the Batmobile because it's big and dumb, and it's the kind of thing that earlier you were asking about, you know, executive meddling or fan meddling.
Yeah, it's mission creep.
Yeah.
It's both. It's executive and fan meddling.
Yeah, like I think the Batmobile did not need to be in this game, but somebody decided early on, and it should be, and bits of the game were designed around it, and it just...
I feel like somebody said early on the Batmobile should be part of the game, so that's why, one, they designed the city so large as it is because you would have an excuse to cruise around the streets in the Batmobile. But at the same time, I think it's also that they made the city bigger so that you would have an excuse to cruise around the city and the streets.
Yeah. And the thing itself is fine. I mean, you know, it takes a bit of getting used to control-wise, but you know, it's got its stuff that it does. It does it well. It's not like a bad game mechanic. It's just, you know, why is it here? It's here because somebody demanded that it should be here, and funnily enough, that's pretty much, I think like I said, is what I think about the plot. Like the Batmobile, the plot, like the story and narrative aspects of this game, mechanically, are actually really good. Like, the plot is bananas, but the way in which Rocksteady gets all of this stuff happening, they get the game mechanics, and they get the video gamey parts of the game working to tell the story. They do the camera angle messing stuff. They do the like slowly going insane, everything's turning into Joker stuff. Like, the plot is nuts, but the storytelling is basically without equal in video games.
It's still Batman.
I dare to invoke the sacred name of Hideo Kojima as a comparison to how this game uses interactive
Our Lord and
aspects
Savior.
to tell you plot stuff.
And it really does do a great job of integrating these two things. Like, I think as far as the Arkham series goes, and maybe compared to other games, maybe not, we won't go as far as Metal Gear Solid, but it does a very good job of integrating its gameplay and its story. Let's not say things we can't take back, but I feel like as compared to other games, Arkham games have done a much better job of using gameplay to tell the story.
Yeah. So, like, what I wouldn't give to see Rocksteady do literally anything other than Batman.
Well, that's one of the thug conversations you find pretty often in this game is people talking about, I feel like it's maybe time we finally left Gotham. Are you sure? Gotham's been really good to us.
Since we just got done promising not to say anything about Hideo Kojima we can't take back, I guess we should probably point out that Hideo Kojima wanted nothing more than to be free of Metal Gear.
And yet here we are.
And you know, that's just finally happened, so let's see if we don't regret this a lot.
A man can dream.
Which, you know, I guess makes us now legally obligated to contemplate the future.
Of Metal Gear.
Well,
or of
I guess,
Arkham in
but,
general.
You know, I was gonna say Batman Arkham, because you know there must be more.
So, what I really think, and I've mentioned this with a couple other guests, is I would really love to see either a Batman Arkham Beyond, or I'd love to see Arkham 66.
Arkham 66.
So that's
This is a parallel to that one film with the labels.
yes. So Batman 66 is a constant reference to specifically the 1966 Batman series that had Adam West as Batman and Burt Ward as Robin, where everything had the massive labels. And that's actually a separate comic series by itself as Batman 66. It's based on that universe of everything's insane.
sounds like a much less grimdark.
It is
Arkham
insanely less grimdark. It's a whole lot more fun. I mean,
So we'll have
some
an
days
Arkham game where you're doing these ludicrous free-flow combos, only instead of doing like a slow-mo and a bone-cracking sound,
Yeah,
it just
you'll just
cuts
have a-
into flashing red and yellow, and it's
you'll just have a
biffo
biff,
in the background.
whammo, fappo, and that would be amazing. I mean, just because you would have the chance for a much more light-hearted story.
I have absorbed some other Batman-related facts since coming into the Nolanverse.
So I feel like after the Nolanverse and after all these, after this game in particular, you could use a more light-hearted take on things. And that's what Arkham, or that's what Batman 66 is good for, is reminding you there was a time when Batman wasn't so serious all the time.
Obligatory, why so serious?
Yes, obligatory why so serious, but Batman 66 is, I feel like,
comics.
it is comics, and that's why I really love Batman 66, is it's a comic book. It's supposed to be something you can have fun with. And even all the stories I've read, like, Batman has the most potential for grimdark. He usually like wallows in it.
My parents are dead.
Exactly. It makes sense, but you don't have to be that guy. Come on, Bats.
Like Arkham has done a good job of taking itself seriously, and now I think that ship has sailed, and let's get on another one.
Yeah, let's do another one. Like, if you want to go dark, go into a different time era, like Arkham Beyond, or just go for something fun, like Arkham 66.
Yeah.
So, last 40 seconds. Any last comments?
Perhaps his next victim will write you
Oh,
a
I think I've brought up all of the burning hot button issues that I wanted to get off my chest on a video.
Gotten all the hot takes you have about Arkham, and I mean that's really the
Not
first
to
time I've
imply
heard.
that, not to imply that I'm using your LP as a soapbox for my personal views on video games. You know,
I mean,
I've
that's-
said I love nothing more than to run my mouth about video games on the internet.
And that's why we're here. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been fantastic.
Don't mention it.
And please join me next time when I'm going to have yet another rotating guest. And this next video will be the last video for the main story of Arkham Knight. So, thank you so much for joining me.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Get ready, Riddler.